Welcome to Pointless Rewind, where I'm going to be doing a blind playthrough of Elden Ring. I love thinking about and talking about my experiences playing games in the moment, but there's no way in hell I'll ever be a streamer. I am too much of a solo gamer to make that into a social event. I also love critiquing and analyzing the crap out of video game levels, but there's no way in hell I'll ever do a game guide because I'm not very good at exploring every nook and cranny of an area. But you know what I am good at? Making stupid mistakes in video games, going in the wrong direction, fighting bosses with the wrong weapon, and dying repeatedly in hilariously stupid ways. So I thought that would actually be fun to narrate. So this is part 4 of my Inept walkthrough of Elden Ring. If you enjoy these walkthroughs and me having a panic attack when a real-life spider attacks during a video game octopus attack, then please like and subscribe. Last time, after much procrastination, I finally entered the gates of Stormhill, only to run into a wall named Margit the Fell Omen. After failing to do much of anything in my 8 attempts, I decided that Margit is just too much for me right now. So part 4 is mostly about me prepping to actually beat Margit, and this includes lots of grinding and actually exploring some of the places I discovered in Limgrave so far. And the first one that popped into my mind is the church or chapel that you come out of after completing the tutorial, because I remember there was an imp statue that I didn't have the proper item for, and I just found that item a few hours ago at that shack up on Stormhill. But before heading there, I stop at the Church of Ella to buy some supplies from Calais, and to not notice the smithing table where I can upgrade my weapons. Upgrading my weapons is the primary obstacle for me in beating Margit, so it's going to be fun to count how many times I fail to notice this smithing table. So me and Torrent ride on over, all pumped up to explore a new, maybe extensive dungeon, and then I realize I don't have enough stone sword keys. Yep, there are 2 imp heads here. You need another one. So I quickly fast travel back up to the Storm Shack. I guess I can explore Stormhill some. I head into the shack. That mopey lady is gone. In her place is a golden seed, which increases my flask charges. Pretty useful, but I kind of wish it was another stone sword key. Anyway, I head east and fight this giant. Is there a reason why every one of these guys I've killed has dropped exactly nothing? Like, this battle takes 3 minutes and I get no items from killing him, and that's the 3rd of these giants I've killed and I've gotten no items from any of them. Is there a lore reason behind this? I continue heading north, reveling in my Hall of Nothing, and I happen upon this bowl that is rooted to the ground. In it, I find a Strength Knot Crystal Tear. This is used in the Flask of Wondrous Physic to increase one's strength. That flask can be found in the 3rd Church America, according to a note I found in the 2nd episode. I don't know where that is, so I continue on my merry way. So I head back south towards these barbarian type guys that I fought last time. This is like the 4th or 5th time I'm fighting these guys. They are consistently tough. Like, I can beat them, but it's kind of a crapshoot, which you can see here when this second guy obliterates me with 2 hits. When I respawn and go back to get my runes, I decide, let me go around these guys. I don't want to go and fight them. So I head to the right and I run into those strange rock snakes that are slithering about amongst all of these ancient coffins. I take some of them out, and I notice this guy who actually launches an attack against me. That's a first. Looks like they actually have a pulse. Meanwhile, these caskets are a veritable treasure trove of runes, which I eagerly lap up. I then head on down to this area where I'm a little bit north of the storm gate, and I come up on this pond that has one of those octopus that I'm so fond of. Psych! I hate these guys. They weren't too tough, but definitely disgusting and freak me out. So I'm like, let me just snipe him from afar. Let him do all that disgusting slithering and twisting and squirming and jumping down there while I'm safe up here. So I shoot him a couple of times. I get him down to half health. He's pretty straightforward. And oh my god, what does he do? Oh, he's climbing up the cliff. Oh god, he's here. What the? Oh god, he's climbing up. He's slithering after me. Heroically, I kill him while simultaneously soiling myself, and it's hard to say whether fighting him or sitting in my own crap is more unpleasant. After dealing with this traumatic experience, I walk on a little bit more, and now I'm overlooking like 5 of those giants in this field, and rather than fight the giants, Torrent and I just ride through the fields exploring. There is this item that's being held by this statue of a lady, but I don't have time to get off Torrent and grab it, so I'll have to come back later. One of these giants pursues me into this wooded area. I ride on past his shack and lose the giant, and I find that I've actually circled behind those barbarians. Going back to the shack, there is an NPC inside, and there's a site of grace outside. This guy is a tarnished warmaster named Bernal. He asked me about my faith in the guidance of grace, and whether I still hold firm to it. I consider saying no because I'm role-playing as a character who is starting to stray from the Church of the Two Fingers. But I don't want to mess up answering this religious question.
Are you a god?
No.
Then
My answer is a strong yes. His purpose is to actually teach me Ashes of War. A lot of them sound cool, but none of them really seem useful or even usable with my flail, so I leave without buying anything. Just to prove how much of a badass I am without those Ashes of War, I head back to Margit to duke it out, and I get curb stomped. But while Margit feels close to unbeatable at this point, there is one boss that I feel like I can beat given enough tries. So I fast travel back to the coastal caves, traverse their lair, and go and fight those Demi-Human chiefs again. These fights are like a microcosm of all of my fights I've had with these guys. Basically, sheer randomness. My first attempt, I do a lot more damage than I'm expecting to before dying. And then the second attempt, I do absolutely shit damage. And then attempt number 3, without changing my strategy at all, I somehow managed to persevere and kill them both. This felt like a major moment for me, like this was the first boss that I beat in this game. And it's elevated in my heart because, unbeknownst to me, my 2.5-year-old had snuck downstairs and was watching me fight this boss from behind me, and I had no idea until I beat them and turned around. I was like, what the hell are you doing down here? Thankfully, my rewards are pretty kid-friendly. They're a tailoring kit and a sewing needle. Turns out I can modify my armor at sites of grace. Meanwhile, the sewing needle is prized by Bach the Demi-Human. I'm assuming Bach is one of the Demi-Human chiefs, but neither one of them looks like what I think Bach looks like. Now, apparently I'm not done with these caves yet, because when I walk to the back of this area, there are tunnels that keep winding on further back and around. There are some more Demi-Human enemies to take out. I'm getting kind of nervous because I'm low on healing flasks. But my anxiety is completely replaced with awe when I come out into the daylight. I'm on that island that was off of the Limgrave beach, the one that I spotted hours ago and had just assumed, I'll find a way to teleport there at some point later in the game. I had no idea I was going to end up here. And it doesn't even really matter that this island is pretty barren. I mean, there's not really anything interesting to find. I think there's like this somber smithing stone, but not much else. Oh, I do find one little thing. I find the base of operations for a bunch of anti-dragon religious nut jobs. The Church of Dragon Communion is actually pretty creepy. When I first walk in, I am surrounded by decapitated dragon statues, and there's like a desiccated dragon corpse in front of me. Now, when I first got here, I was kind of scared that that dragon corpse was going to come to life and attack me, even though all the imagery all around makes it pretty obvious that this church is into dragon sacrifice. This is made explicit when I interact with the altar. Holy crap, it offers up 3 different incantations, each of which turn you into some form of a dragon. One lets you shoot dragon fire, one lets you use a dragon claw, and one lets you snap at people with a dragon's mouth. The only catch is I'd be aligning myself with dragon hunters who eat dragon hearts and slaughter dragons wholesale. Like, philosophically, I'm completely against this. However, in terms of my zealous lust for power, I've already decided I am going to make a build towards this. Vince Clorthol is going to eat a dragon heart. However, these incantations require a high faith level and arcane level, and it requires a dragon heart, which kind of requires me to have found a dragon and requires me to have killed a dragon. So it's going to be a while before I tread down this dark path. At this point, I fast traveled back to the War Master's shack. I'm thinking I need to level up a bit to get in a position to be able to use all those incantations. So I head back over to that field of giants. But before I can do anything, I get distracted when I head over to this ridge and spot a camp. I decide to check it out. I take out these first two soldiers, and a couple other soldiers attack me, and these dogs attack me too. These are very different from the wolves from earlier. These guys look more like bearded collies, like Einstein from Back to the Future. So these fights are very hard on me emotionally, but I guess if Doc Brown is willing to test time travel on one of these dogs, then killing them shouldn't raise my hackles too much. I then creep down towards the front of the camp, and I accidentally trip this alarm, and a couple soldiers come out to fight me. One of them is a big soldier with what looks like a lance, and he does short work of me. So I head back directly from the War Master's shack to grab my runes. I then skulk around the side of these ruins, avoiding those alarm bells. I attack and kill this guy despite the fact that I start the fight two-handing my shield in the time-honored tradition of pressing the wrong button. I then scout out the camp from this vantage point, but I don't see a clear advantage, so I sneak back the way I came. And by sneak back, I mean I trip the alarm and have to run back to the site of grace and rest. When I go back to that camp, it's from that rocky ridge. I drop in and kill some of the foot soldiers and Doc Brown's dog, and then I cast my stealth spell so I can do a little bit of sneaking. No one is aware of my presence. It'd probably be a good idea to go after some of the weaker enemies first. But instead, I try to cheap shot the toughest enemy in the camp, and I pay dearly for my arrogance. So this time I try to be a bit more careful. I equip my talisman that increases my bow's range. Now, you might remember from earlier in this video that last time I took potshots at an enemy, I reacted in less than heroic ways. But that was a hideous monstrosity. This is just a soldier. I doubt he's going to do anything super erratic. So I start shooting at him, and he starts walking towards me, and oh my god, he is doing some stupid crazy shit. He is absolutely destroying that tent. Thankfully, I'm able to put this soldier down and end his bout of insanity, but I can only imagine what that tent is going through now. The rest of the camp is just a series of standard foot soldiers and adorable bearded collies. I kill them all without any mercy, and then I open this chest. The chest contains a Beast Crest heater shield. After equipping it, I move on past the camp down this sort of valley, and there's a statue overlooking me on top of this cliffside. I head up this path towards the right, and then I hear a voice. Turns out it's a giant jar named Alexander. He asks for some help in dislodging him. I acquiesce. After a couple of hits with my flail, he goes absolutely flying. Alexander doesn't notice my discomfort that we're doing all of this in front of one of those giant octopus. He just hands me this exalted flesh and starts to explain where he's headed.
And beyond these lands lie the scarlet, rot-blighted Caelid wilds. And upon their southern edge is Redmane Castle, in which a festival of combat is being held.
This sounds pretty cool. Again, this sounds like maybe it's a side quest. I'm a little bit concerned because it sounds like it's located basically in this game's version of Blighttown. So I'm going to let Alexander handle that on his own for a while. Anyway, I take a few steps towards this ridge overlooking this bridge, and there's this large armored fella, and he is just slamming something really heavy down onto the bridge. So I turn back the way I came, and yeah, I'm not going back towards that thing. Fortunately, I don't have to test myself against anyone, because when I head back towards that bridge, there's actually a site of grace right there. So I rest at it, and I decide to fast travel back to the War Master's shack with the intention of exploring a little bit. So I start heading north, and I'm a bit surprised to find one of these stone snake automaton things, because I've already hypothesized that these are like guardians of some sort, but I can't figure out what they're really guarding up here. I kill it, and then I continue on under this crumbled bridge. On my right, there is what looks like a giant fortress, which I cautiously approach on torrent, and then I get a message saying I've been invaded by Recusant Henricus. What a fancy name. And he's got a fancy giant mace. The start of this fight is challenging. He almost kills me with his jumping attack, and he blows something up. I don't know what he actually used to do that. Wait, maybe he ate a dragon heart and now he's filled with the power of dragons. I eagerly go to ask him about this, but then I accidentally kill him instead. So I approach the fortress. A bunch of messages tell me that no one knows how to get in. I talk to this ghost who talks about how people want to fight here, but the doors won't open. And this body next to him has a couple items. There's a small red effigy and a duelist's furled finger. So this is definitely an area for competitive multiplayer, which means it's not for me. So I ride back under the bridge to the edge of this cliff. There is this plateau under me, which is an area I could explore, but way off in the distance, I see a lone rider silhouette, and I think, okay, I should go fight that guy. So I head on over and I take a swipe at him. He activates this holy power on his lance, which makes me go, holy shit! But turns out that that power is basically useless. We just keep going around each other in circles, missing each other one swipe after another. I finally am able to get him to fall off his horse, and then I murder him. After I kill him, I pick up what turns out to be an Ash of War, the Golden Vow. This is a skill that is passed down among the knights of the capital who pledge their hand to the Erd Tree. It buffs your attack and defense upon activation, which is far more useful for me than any of the abilities I've been finding. Exploring some more, I see that I'm now overlooking that camp that I cleared out earlier, and there's this item perched atop these ruins that I had spotted earlier. I prep Torrent to make a majestic leap. We suck, so we circle back around and do the majestic leap again, and we're awesome! So I go and awesomely pick up this lance, which is not such an awesome discovery. Torrent and I head on back to the site of grace at the War Master's shack, and now equip that new Ash of War and transform my flail into a sacred flail. So with that, I foolishly think it's Margit busting time. I cast my golden vow in front of the Foggate, and I fight. And boy, is it impressive how I am somehow doing less damage than I was doing before. So that was 5 minutes of my life that I will never get back. I switch my flail back to a standard flail, and knowing that I need to upgrade my weapons to beat Margit, but not knowing that I already found the upgrade table in the Church of Ella, I fast travel to the Church of Ella. The upgrade table goes unnoticed by me as I prep to tackle some of the dungeons that I've already found in Limgrave. I start with the Stormfoot Catacombs because, if you recall from episode 2, I explored Stormfoot Catacombs a tiny bit. So I head down this corridor, down to this room where I was ambushed many hours ago. I do this just so I can kill these goblins/gargoyles so that I don't have to worry about these guys coming from behind me. Then I head down this side corridor, which I have not explored yet. It opens up into this room where there's a large locked door. There's a passage to my left heading down and into this large multi-leveled room. I can see a couple goblins waiting for me. I draw 2 of them out and kill them before heading into that room. I can see some goblins up on the upper levels, but I ignore them for now. I go and pick up this flower. It's a grave glovewort. It's a flower that blooms in catacombs, and it apparently strengthens spirit ashes. I haven't figured out how to use those spirit ashes yet, so this is not useful, but good to know. I also find a grave violet, which apparently is useful in summoning those spirits. I then head down this narrow passageway. I can hear fire ahead of me. This fire distracts me just enough to let this goblin get the drop on me. I kill him, and then I decide there will be no goblins left behind me. So I go back into that big room, and I snipe at the one goblin I can see on the upper levels. I draw him to me, and then I slaughter him. And then it's back to the flame room. There is some contraption that is shooting these flames at regular intervals. I time this very poorly and nearly get roasted alive before ducking into this side corridor where another flame contraption is shooting flames at me. This is pretty hilarious. Like, I'm not taking any damage, but visually it looks like it's doing a real number on me. Thankfully, I have that healing spell, so should I take any damage, I should be able to fix it right up. Anyway, I timed this trap poorly again and nearly get roasted alive yet again, but then I'm able to duck into this side corridor with a ladder. After healing, I climb on up and kill the 2 goblins waiting for me in this area, and then I go and preempt this goblin's attempt at ambushing me. I kill him, and then I go and kill his brother. In this room, I find some wandering noble's ashes. I head back into the room I just came out of, and I see this ledge beneath me. I hop down to it and pull this lever, and a door mysteriously opens. Obviously, it's that door that I already encountered. But first, I head back to that flame trap room. I make it through the corridor into the room where the actual contraption sits. I can see a goblin waiting to ambush me from on the wall, and I spot a goblin on the side. I kill the one on the side first, and then I kill this one that's waiting across from him. This proves to be a mistake because like 4 goblins ambush me from the walls, and they bleed me to death. So I make my way back to this spot. This time I snipe at some of those wall huggers and draw them to me individually so I can kill them before I take out the other ones. Once I kill all of them, I pick up a couple items. These prove to not be anything new. They're useful crafting materials, but nothing special. So after that waste of time, I head back through the catacombs towards that door. And this door clearly leads to a boss fight. This fight is against the Erdtree Burial Watchdog, who looks like a giant version of the enemies I've been fighting. But holy crap, he is stiff as hell. His attacks are very repetitive and they look almost automated, like he's not actually in control. It borders on looking comical, but this fight works for me. I get the sense that this guy is doing this against his will. He might not even be an actual living thing. He is just basically an automated sentry who is mindlessly attacking me. And those mindless attacks actually work. This plunging attack kills me and sends me back to the site of grace. Like, he was a good doggy. He did his job. He guarded the Erdtree. For my second attempt, I make sure that the Golden Vow is activated. And then when I go after the Erdtree Guardian Watchdog... The Erdtree Guardian... That's not right. The Wordtree Burial... Wordtree? Whatever his name is, I know a cheap shot when I see one, and this sideswipe is definitely a cheap shot.
Thought you were gonna tell the kid to get rid of that fucking mutt.
Luckily, he's far less vicious, so his method of killing me just looks way less painful. For my third attempt, I decide to disengage with the Golden Vow and use my nunchuck attack. And this does some damage, but it also leaves me completely vulnerable, which is why I die quickly and horrifically in front of this grotesque image. So my fourth attempt with the Erdtree Guardian Watchdog, Burial Guard Dog. Wait, Burial Watchdog. I don't know what the hell this guy's name is.
What's the dog's name?
Erdtree Burial Watchdog.
Hey, Janelle. What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking. Is he okay?
Wolfie's fine, honey. Wolfie's just fine.
Your foster parents never played Elden Ring. All confusion aside, I try out the Sacred Enchantment on my flail this time, and to the surprise of nobody, it does less damage than before. Also, since when could he shoot flames at me? Almost immediately, my health is dramatically decimated, and I'm down to 1 healing flask while he's looking mighty chipper. Somehow, despite my atrocious choice of enchantment, my lack of healing flasks, and this guy's ability to drag my health down to a sliver repeatedly, I managed to wear him down. We're both down to our last breaths. Things are getting tense, but I managed to slip in 2 final hits, and I killed the Guardtree Word Hog. Guardtree Erd Dog. Erdtree Guard Dog. Erdtree Wart... Erdtree Watchdog.
What's the dog's name?
I have no clue. I just fight the guy. I don't get to know him. And my reward for my ignorance are these noble sorcerer's ashes. There's nothing else of interest here other than that disgusting egg tree hybrid I already talked about, so I head back to the Church of Ella to stock up on some arrows and continuously not notice that the smithing table is right there. Ah, man. Along with the arrows, I also buy a couple of cookbooks from Calais, and then I decide to explore the area surrounding Lake Agheel. So I head to this spot near the site of Grace, where that barbarian's riding around. I go and fight him, but while I'm fighting him, I hear a voice.
Oi! Hey, you there!
That voice tries to distract me from the fight with the barbarian by being as whiny as possible.
Pretend that you can't see.
But I'm still intrigued enough that after I kill the barbarian, I go in search of the voice. A couple of messages lead me to this bush, where when I jump, it reveals this NPC named Bach. I failed to notice that this name matches the name that was on the item descriptions of the sewing equipment that I obtained from the Demi-Human chiefs. And I also failed to notice that this guy is clearly a Demi-Human, probably because I still imagine Bach looking like this. So when he talks about how all of his stuff was stolen, how he was kicked out of a cave, how he was turned into a tree, and how he wants to sneak back into a cave on the coast, I'm not thinking about the coastal cave. No, I'm thinking about, hey, there must be a cave on this lake that I'm next to. So instead of completing this guy's quest post-haste by traveling to the coastal cave, I head further south and use this bird eye telescope, which is what gives me that great view of the lake. I take a long, sweeping panoramic look at my surroundings, and it's beautiful. This world is incredible, but I have to admit that when I did this, I didn't actually notice anything of use. I think I was just more in awe. Now, when I'm watching this video, I can see like countless landmarks that I've seen in the 20 hours since I played this part, but I'll have to talk about all that stuff in later videos. For now, I choose not to explore the lake itself, but just to explore the road alongside the lake. I move further south, killing these peasant types as I go. I nearly die to these soldiers because I become so focused on this scarab, but I manage to kill them and also this barbarian rider before proceeding cautiously forward. After killing this spearman, I notice this caravan. It's being led by two giant slaves. I am not willing to tackle them right now. I have too many ruins on me. I need to go level up, so I quickly ride on back to that site of grace and level up my vigor. After doing so, I ride back towards that caravan, picking up this ash of war from that scarab on my way. I wait for the bulk of the caravan to pass on by, and then I kill these torch-bearing hollows. And then I spot these ruins across the road, and I make my way towards them. As I approach, I see this big, funky pink flower or fungus within the ruins, which are revealed to be called the Waypoint ruins. I walk on in, and there's a bunch of smaller versions of these funky pink flower/funguses. Fungi, I don't know why I said funguses. They spew poison at me, or pollen, I don't know which. I run back out, and one of the flowers follows me, and I hack it down. At this point, the giant flower/fungus spews a ton of poison, so I try to stay back a little bit and tackle his smaller minions who die pretty easily and drop some poison bloom. I'm completely caught by surprise when suddenly some giant light beams shoot down at me. Luckily, they're telegraphed a bit, so I avoid getting hit, but that big guy's got some dirty tricks. Well, two could play at this game. So I go around the side of the ruins, killing some bats and wolves. Then I hug the cliff wall and come back around the back of the ruins, where I have a clear view of that big plant/fungus and his smaller brethren. I light that big guy on fire a couple times with my fire arrows. He tries to call down the wraths of the heavens on me, but again, I'm able to avoid it. I continue sniping him from afar. He keeps on spewing out poison or pollen or whichever. I sure hope that was pollen, because otherwise he really screwed up the grass. I then kill the last 3 remaining little plants and pick up some Miranda powder and some immunizing cured meat. The second item is pretty self-explanatory. It helps build up my immunity. I go to look for an item description for the Miranda powder, and I happen to notice this note that happens to be about the very Waypoint ruins that I'm in. I had forgotten that I had this note, and I'm super glad that I found it here because I think I was done exploring, and the fact that the note tells me that there's someone hiding in these ruins makes me actually go over the place again. So I head up these ruins to try to grab this item that's up on this ledge, and I get a nice view of the staircase that I'm probably looking for as well. Torrent and I succeed in our mission of floating right past that item, and then after taking out a few more Miranda flowers, I head towards these stairs. And these stairs lead to a boss fight. This guy is called the Mad Pumpkinhead, which I think is kind of a stupid name despite what he looks like. I mean, he looks like he's got a giant circular vice around his head, and he's got this wicked flail. I learned pretty quick in this fight that I can do guard counters on him. This causes some massive bleed damage to him, but he does have the ability to just flat out block those guard counters with his giant pumpkin head. Good on him for using all of his tools to the best of his abilities. He actually nearly kills me a couple of times because I find it tough to avoid his punches and that flail. But after a few more hits, I'm able to transform him from a Mad Pumpkin head into a Mad Pumpkin dead. Well, that was a long, awkward silence. I don't know if it was because that was such a bad joke or because he didn't drop any items when he died. I head through this door and there is a lady surrounded by crystals. This image just screams insane. Like, why is she holed up in here? And was that Mad Pumpkinhead an experiment of hers? I mean, she's clearly a sorceress. I talked to her. She's named Selin, and she confirms that she is a sorceress. She asks me if I want to learn sorcery. Even though I don't, I say yes because I want to see as much of her dialogue tree as possible. Classic guy move to say what the girl wants to hear. Then again, this is kind of a classic girl move too. She's wearing a freaking statue's head. This is like the Elden Ring version of photoshopping a picture for your social media. Selin breaks up the lies a bit by opening up to me.
I was exiled from the Academy of Rea Lucaria as a reviled, apostate witch.
Hey, we have some things in common. She was exiled from an institution, and I'm kind of exiling myself from an institution. I mean, the Church of Two Fingers holds no sway over me anymore, hence why I plan on eating dragon hearts. Perhaps this is why she makes me her apprentice, despite the fact that I have no sorcery abilities. The item descriptions of her spells are interesting. Everything's related to things called glintstones, and there's lots of terms and lore that I will probably forget pretty quickly. Things like the Crystal Cadre, Olivinus Conspectus, Celia, the Town of Sorcery, Expecto Patronum, and the Knights of the Cuckoo. That's almost as bizarre as the Loathsome Dung Eater. FromSoft has such a weird sense of humor. You know who else has a weird sense of humor? That would be me, because for some reason I think that Vince Clorthol is equipped to handle Margit now. I am quickly proven wrong because this time I'm not even able to stick with him for a decent amount of time. I die when he's only down like a quarter of his health. For some reason I try again and get incredibly similar results.
Put these foolish ambitions to rest.
I take Margit's message to heart and temper my ambitions. I choose to try tackling that field of giants to the east of Stormhill. I choose to sneak in because during my first attempt, I start trying to pick off giants one by one, and I'm killed by the very first one, which would have left Margit shaking his head in dismay. So I head up these ruins. I find more rune fragments and a sanctuary stone, which essentially seems like it's a rare version of a rune fragment. They're both parts of a crumbled civilization from up above. There are like 5 giants surrounding this ruins, although none of them see me. I ride away towards this ledge. There's another giant below me, and so I head back towards the middle of the plateau. I get off of Torrent and start sneaking a little bit, and I find this stationary giant guarding a corpse with an item. I don't quite know how to grab that item without engaging him in a fight, and since there's so many around me, I don't want to do that, so I sneak away, and I find this item that I had seen earlier when I first investigated this plateau. Unfortunately, it's just a smithing stone. I thought it would be something far more useful, and as I've said many times, I haven't figured out that I can smith my weapons, so what the hell good is a smithing stone for me? Frustrated by this discovery, I grab Torrent and ride back towards that treasure guarding giant. I'm just riding around him to distract him so I can grab that item, and it turns out to be a beast liver. Wow, that sounds useless. I mean, I guess it's high in iron, so there's that. I ride away, feeling like this little bout of exploration was a bit pointless, but I randomly end up at that statue that I saw earlier. This statue is identical to the one I discovered in the second video, and when I interact with it, it points a beaming light over across the valley towards this other plateau. With that last statue, I realized I had forgotten to actually follow that beam of light. But this time, when I see that light beaming across the valley, I'm like, I need to go over there. Of course, I am extremely easy to distract, which is what happens when I look over this ledge and see this writhing, pulsating. Holy shit. Holy shit. Right when I was talking about this enemy that has been scaring me for freaking 12 hours, a spider dropped down like a centimeter from my face, next, like in between my mouth and the mic. Oh man, wow. I was hoping that real life could be my safe space away from terrifying video game monsters, but turns out that nothing is safe in my life. With the entire world determined to scare the living shit out of me, Torrent and I go in for a kamikaze run. While this makes it less scary, it's also far less effective, as I don't know what the hell I'm doing and I'm nearly killed just by the jankiness of the horse-mounted combat. But here's the thing about this guy. He might be absolutely terrifying, but he is pretty easy. I haven't died of one of these guys yet, so I eventually just kill him because that's kind of what I do. I freak out a bunch, but then I get the job done. Anyway, I clear out the area of these really annoying mosquitoes and these baby octopus, which are far less terrifying than their adult brethren. Although, would brethren actually be of different demographic groups? Like, I don't know, maybe the adults are actually the baby octopus's mentors. Which means it's a good thing that I slaughter all of these baby octopuses now, because I don't want them to grow up to become those demonic monsters that their adult mentors are. Okay, I think I need to cool it, because I think that whole episode with the octopus and the real-life spider has really put me on edge. I mean, that might explain why I mutilate the corpse of one of these baby octopuses by decapitating it. I search all through my inventory for this thing, but it takes forever, because how the hell was I supposed to know that it's a helmet? But once I do discover that, I decide, why the hell not? These guys have been driving me insane. Why not complete my descent into madness by putting this monstrosity on my head? And with my Cthulhu getup, I attack this poor giant and kill him before riding off to find where that statue was pointing me towards. It was pointing me across the valley here, so I head on north back towards that Colosseum I visited way back when. On my way there, I spot what looks like a ton of dead golems lying on the ground. I keep expecting them to pop up because it's happened before, but they do no such thing here. I hop on down to this lower plateau where the statue is pointing towards, then I hug the cliff until I find a door with a sad ghost sitting next to it. The ghost tells me that this hallowed resting place has been violated, that those within have refused the Erdtree's call and have chosen to live within death. This ghost's tone of telepathy is very judgmental, but who am I to judge? I'm wearing a fucking octopus head. Anyway, I think it's clear that that statue is pointing me towards this doorway. Makes me wonder if I'd found the door before the statue, whether it would have been locked or not. Regardless, I'm intrigued. So I head into the death-touched catacombs, and like the last set of catacombs I went into, there's a door immediately in front of me with tree roots going into it, and it's locked. So I head down this passage and kill this one skeleton who's waiting for me. The next room is this chamber. It's got a couple of exits out of it. It's got this main stairwell. It's got this little alcove, and it's got this little corridor. After dealing with several skeletons, I choose that side corridor. 2 skeletons spawn in this room. I kill them, and I steal 2 grave flowers that were next to their bodies. And then I head down this passage to an overlook that is sitting atop this chamber. 3 skeletons spawn individually, and I unfortunately knock each of them down into that chamber accidentally. Then when I hop down into that chamber, I'm overrun with skeletons. I backtrack into the stairwell, which leads me back into the original room, but then I am waylaid in the stairwell and killed. So I respawn, but before heading back into battle, I realize my choice in headgear has absolutely made a mockery of all that I stand for. I am vehemently anti-land octopus, and I don't want to give off the wrong impression, so I take that thing off. So I move on through the catacombs again. This time when I arrive at that overlook, I try to keep the skeletons from falling down. I succeed with most of them, so that when I do go into that chamber, I am less overwhelmed. I'm able to take out the majority of them before heading into this final chamber. I pick up some blood roses before realizing I left a couple stragglers behind me. I kill them, head back into that chamber, and pull that lever, and a door opens somewhere. It's time to fight the Black Knife Assassin. Interestingly enough, he starts at half health. He has some sick daggers, and he is able to stagger me when I'm blocking his attacks. But my guard counters do the same to him, and he takes massive bleed damage. This guy has some really cool, graceful moves like the spin attack and this leap backwards. But just like the Burial Watchdog from the previous catacombs, this boss feels like he's right on the edge of just falling apart. He doesn't come anywhere close to killing me, and I backstab him and land a fatal blow. From his body, I get the Assassin's Crimson Dagger. Turns out it's a talisman that restores my HP for every critical hit I make. The item description mentions that this talisman was modeled after the blades used in the Night of the Black Knives, which from the intro video was the night that Godwyn was assassinated. So did I just kill one of Godwyn's assassins? Or was this like a follower, like a cult member who followed or revered those assassins? I lean towards him being one of the actual assassins just from the state that he was in during this boss fight, how he was kind of in shambles. I also find a treasure chest which within contains a death root. Apparently this is the source that gives rise to those who live in death, and it's apparently sought after by the beast clergymen. And these were originally part of the stolen rune of death that enabled the first death of a demigod. So much lore and so many questions based on what that ghost was saying when I entered into these catacombs. It definitely sounds like necromancy had a major part to play in the fall of the Lands Between. Regardless, I head on back out of the catacombs to explore the rest of this plateau. At the far edge, there are these soldiers of Godric amongst these crucified bodies. I kill them, and then I head back towards the center of the plateau, where there are all of these crumbled ruins and a ton of demi-humans. They are pretty challenging in a big gaggle like this, but I'm eventually able to kill them all. I then head under this bridge. There are some more demi-humans here next to a dead golem. The golem doesn't get up, but I don't trust these guys. I wander around a bit and I find a corpse that holds a lance talisman, and I see another dead golem. This one I snipe at just to check it out, and sure enough, it wakes up. I ride in with Torrent and get some hits in, and then we fight one-on-one a bit, but eventually he kills me. I mean, he does have the size advantage. So when this guy killed me, I had felt that I had explored everything on this plateau, so I don't feel the need to get any revenge on him. I just want to go and grab my runes. While I slaughter some demi-humans in front of a captive golem audience just to prove to him to never mess with me again, I think about what else I need to clean up in Limgrave. I decide to head back to Stormhill and tackle that Stormhill Evergaol. I'm expecting this to be like a giant dungeon, but no, it sort of just transports me into a similar looking area just with these ethereal barriers. I walk towards this blue glowing light and the Crucible Knight spawns. Now, I love his color scheme, but I am less in love with how badly he kills me because I do nothing in this fight. Now, normally I'm all for a tough boss fight. I mean, I am getting my ass kicked by Margit repeatedly, but I love that fight. Here, though, I'm a bit frustrated because I expected a proper level. I wasn't expecting a boss arena, so I'm kind of pissed that my runes are going to be stuck there. Luckily, when I head back over, my runes are waiting outside of the portal. Unluckily for me, it took me a full week to do this because I was sulking and I stopped playing Elden Ring for a week because of this. So with runes safely back in hand and with me having wasted a full week of my life, I try again against Crucible Knight and he kills me in 8 seconds. 5 of those seconds of which he spent just walking towards me, so really the fight took 3 seconds. So I don't see myself beating this guy anytime soon, and there's only one dungeon that I've found in Limgrave so far that I haven't explored, and that is the Groveside Cave. But before heading there, I head back to the Church of Ella. I like to use that as my base of operations. I get to buy items and look longingly at that smithing table that I still haven't noticed. And then I march through the woods to that cave. I start by heading down this darkened tunnel. The main cavern has this path that surrounds this pit where a bunch of wolves are lying there, including a giant white one. For some reason, I decided to just jump into the middle of them, and the white one brushes me aside like I was nothing. My second attempt at this cave, I snipe at one of the regular wolves and kill it. The big white one comes at me in this darkened corridor. I fight him, and am able to kill him along with one of his proteges that followed him. And then I kill the other wolf that's in this pit. With all those wolves dead, I hop on in and grab my runes and this cracked pot before approaching this stagnant water where these wolves are waiting. I kill them, and then I grab some glowstones, some silver butterflies, and some more runes. Before exploring further, I decide to level up, and then I sneak on past that wolf pit without killing any of them. The only one that I kill is the one that is waiting at the end of this tunnel and is guarding this fog door. Actually, no, this wolf back in the main cavern is staring at me like, what the hell, man? He's looking at me like I had an octopus for a head. So I kill him, and then I head through the fog door. And his name is the Beastman of Farum Azula. From afar, he looks like a demi-human who has made camp here. When he gets closer with that giant machete-like weapon, I see that he looks way more vicious than a demi-human. Almost like some sort of a beast man. He's got some strong attacks, and I can't really get my guard counter to work well because he keeps avoiding him. Eventually I settle on jump attacks. These stagger him and basically make him worthless. I mean, look at him try to intimidate me here by yelling at me. This guy's just a beastman of Farum Azula. I mean, does he know the horrors I've dealt with today? I've been attacked by a video game octopus and real-life spiders. This guy was nothing. The only item in this room is the one you get for killing him, which is the Flame Drake Talisman. This thing boosts fire damage, and the item description tells me that apparently dragons ruled this world before the Erd Tree. Hopefully no one minds that my personal goal is to eat a bunch of dragon hearts. But when will I have that magnificent feast? Well, you'll have to wait for another episode of my inept walkthrough of Elden Ring. Thanks for watching. I absolutely love doing these, and from the comments, I'm seeing that you guys are enjoying these. These are so fun to make. It's enhancing my love for FromSoft games to a level that I never expected it to get to, so I absolutely plan on doing this until I beat this game. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I love doing this, and I'd love for more and more people to see my stuff.